Hi, this is your host, Jeff Ragavin, and you're listening to Marketing Mix, where we hear from some of the most influential CMOs of today to discuss the strategies of tomorrow. Welcome to Marketing Mix. Joining me today is Charlie Cole. Charlie's the Global Chief E-commerce Officer at Samsonite and also the Chief Digital Officer at Tumi. Charlie, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me, and I appreciate you dealing with my mouthful of titles.
Charlie, before we get started into talking through some questions, I wanted to quickly first highlight something that we've seen in the last couple of weeks. Congrats on the new short video that you guys did with Lenny Kravitz and his daughter. It's awesome, and I watched it, and I really I connected with it, mainly because I think I've been there, because I've been down to Eleuthera, and it looked like the glass bridge.
Yeah, that's a cool thing. That's something we're really proud of.
So the video was great. And, just from a brand perspective, I'd love for you to talk to some of the listeners about, why Lenny Kravitz and, why the short video.
Well, so the first thing that might sound a little, cliche or obvious is that we've learned, specifically with the Tumi brand, that a true, authentic connection to the brand is important. And the fact of the matter is that Lenny was a Tumi user and a fan, so that's sort of just this obvious but sometime undervalued hurdle that we wanted to make sure we cleared. And then as we were introducing the new Alpha 3 collection, Zoe and Lenny sort of represented this sort of generational view into obviously their family. And for us, Alpha 3 is sort of the graduate of the most important member of our family in Alpha 2. So the fact that Lenny was a user was the most important thing to us. And the fact that now he and his daughter can kind of move through the Tumi collections in their own life and talk about their family progression and how they've sort of evolved, it sort of served as a nice symbol for the evolution of kind of our internal family as well.
When I watched it, I connected on the whole focus on journeys. And so many of us travel both for work and for fun. And for me, I was just like, wow, I really loved it. I mean, I love the fact that it was also where they are from, like from the Bahamas. And, it's just very aspirational as well. So I thought that was super cool.
Yeah. And authenticity is sometimes easier said than done. Right. And so we've learned through our own progress that having people that truly use this stuff is just as important as any sort of like fame or influencer followers and like that. So I just think that's so cool as a Tumi user myself, that it's not like we had to sell Lenny on the quality of the product, because he was already a real user of it, which, I would like to think all brands represent themselves that way, but it's particularly important to us.
When we think of Tumi, we definitely think of luxury. When you guys are actually pushing this content out, is this something that's for the United States? Is this global?
This is particularly global, and that every one of these is different, Jeff, to be honest. Like some are more regional based, some more global based, but I think Lenny had a certain level of global appeal, as well as the fact that it was a global collection, which isn't always the case, that it's being really pushed out around the world, which is it's always a really cool thing.
Yeah, so I would say, like, from a global perspective, like, this is a good topic to kind of segue into. So, from having your brand consistent across the board is always a challenge. So as a global brand, like, how do you guys ensure that you have this, the same experience all over the world in different locations and different nationalities?
It's remarkably difficult. And that's the first thing. And in some cases, we have collections which are limited to a region, right? So in some cases, it's literally impossible. But what we've been working on, first off, is having a global view of our customer from a data perspective, and now a global view of our expectations from a customer service perspective. Because if our goods, or if you're to suffer a defect or have something break over wear and tear or whatever it may be, most likely it's not going to happen in your local market, right? You're going to be traveling and you're going to be out and about. And so we have to live up to those expectations globally with Tumi, particularly as a direct consumer face brand. And I think that's where we've focused on that. And by having that customer experience after the sale and having that consistent, I think that's the most important part of us meeting our consumer promise around the world.
Also, when we're thinking about Tumi, the first thing that we think of is true personalization. We all have our own initials engraved in our bags. How does this actually change the mindset of people when they're buying products to actually have that additional value with personalization?
Yeah, and it's an important aspect that you can't forget about, is that it might seem like a subtle thing to have your name engraved, but it does give you a chance to have a different level of interaction with the brand. And it's not just the initials. In some cases, you can customize some of the colors and the patches that the initials go on. And we've seen that has a massive affinity, or creates a massive affinity within the brand. And during the holiday season, one of my favorite statistics we have, even when these things are being gifted, we see kind of the personalization rates as gifts in the 60 to 70% range. So it's clearly resonating with the receiver as well as the gifter, and I think that that's not a trivial thing. I personally think that the more you interact with a brand, even if it is something subtle in the form of initials, the better chance you have for us to kind of drive a longer lifetime value. And sure enough, we've seen that those little personal touches are have a much higher propensity for people to come back to the brand, without kind of divulging, too much of kind of, I should say, specifics, where we'd be kind of violating data. We have seen a higher return rate for people that do the personalization on the products that allow it. So it has a positive business effect, and I like to think it increases the affinity for the product itself for the person using it.
So when you think about your customers and you think about all the people that are buying your products, whether they are just traveling for fun or they're traveling for work, do you have a cross section of a customer in mind that is truly your, let's just say, your biggest brand advocate?
No, it's a good question, and not one that I had necessarily thought about. But I think one of the things that the Tumi brand resonates with is just anyone who's serious about traveling. And something that I've always thought about, and you referenced, Jeff, the idea of the journey, right? Where this idea of, we have this mantra of trying to help people perfect the journey. The journey may be you going from Seattle to Hong Kong, which is a flight that I'm doing next week, or the journey might be from my house to my coffee shop a mile away. The fact of the matter is that our challenge is we have to be equally relevant and equally high performing in each one of those use cases. And so for that reason, maybe it's a little bit idealistic to say, but I'd like to think that we can kind of help perfect any journey, and that your traveling is going to be made that much bigger than that. So I think anyone who's serious about it, and anybody who views their luggage or their backpack or whatever it is, not only just as a utility, but also something that can be a bit of a fashion statement, is a person that we resonate with. And hopefully that becomes a bit of a ageless argument, whether you're, a 20-year-old in suburban America, or a 20-year-old in New York City, or a 20-year-old in Hong Kong. Hopefully we can resonate with you if you're serious about traveling.
So when I think about, the whole purchase funnel, and especially for someone like you who's managing all of the e-com, it used to be that we would go to the store and we would feel it and we'd really want to experience what the bag was like before we bought it. But, with obviously the rise of digital and everybody buying online, people have really turned to websites and Amazon and all of these portals to actually buy. So I'm curious, your background has always been in online and e-com. What are you seeing right now when it comes to kind of the convergence of both, brick and mortar? So people buying online and people also coming into your store.
I think brick and mortar, it is the most underrated channel there is. And that might sound like a bit of a silly statement from a digital person. But if you look at the penetration rates of retail sales in online versus offline, I think the latest stat I saw was from eMarketer, and China was the most penetrated at around 24% e-commerce, which is nothing. That means like 76% is still being done in offline channels, and therefore shouldn't be trivialized. And that number in the United States is somewhere in the 16 to 18% range. So put another way, I really consider around 80% of our job as digital leaders and as digital kind of operators to be the online to offline connection and how we drive people. And especially in our world where the Tumi brand in particular and Samsonite brand as well are a bit more of a considered purchase, right? It's not like you're buying a $14 piece of luggage on the floor in like some, kind of hypermarket in Europe. These are things that are designed to last, and you're probably going to put a bit more thought into it. So the tools that Google gives you, the tools that Facebook gives you, where you can actually drive an understanding of what the offline attribution for what you're doing online is, it's huge. But then also going back to like that single view of the customer that I referenced previously, we have got to try to understand the effect of our websites on driving people into the stores and increasing the propensity to purchase. And that is also relevant in the after sales world, where even though you may buy the product in one of our stores, in Nordstrom, wherever, digital serves as probably the best means of communication for after sales service, for warranty and repair. And so we're constantly obsessing over that connection. And frankly, I think it's a place that the majority of brands don't put enough effort in trying to connect because of those stats of, we digital is so easy to romanticize and so easy to kind of prioritize because it is such a buzzy channel, and it certainly is a growing channel. but the lion's share of retail revenue is still happening offline. And I think it's something easy to forget when you're in this kind of role.
What does the strategy look like as far as one, driving people to your site, but then also, with the rise of Amazon, people going and literally purchasing something on the cusp when they need something right now and their information's already there? Like, how is the rise of Amazon affecting?
Very different answer depending on which brand within our portfolio you're talking about. So for Tumi, for example, direct consumer is our priority. We want people to buy from Tumi.com and Tommy.com and from Tumi stores. And Amazon is a channel we use, but we have a very, very clear product segmentation where only about 40 to 50% of what we sell is available on Amazon.com. And we want to give people a reason to interact with our brand stores and give people a reason to shop directly with Tumi as opposed to just saying it. For a brand like American Tourister, which is also in the Samsonite portfolio, Amazon is a very important channel for us. And I think a good exercise you have to do when you're thinking about where is Amazon the most relevant, type in anything that's non-brand modified. Like I'm looking at my desk right now and I have a cup, or I have a coaster, or I have headphones, or I have scissors. If you type in any keyword like that is completely non-brand modified, just see what shows up, right? See what shows up in both the paid and organic results. And I think the harsh reality of Amazon is the majority of things you're going to see are going to be at that entry-level price point. And that's because Amazon is basically curating the results to their typical person purchasing it. And I don't think, at least today, that someone who's looking for the highest quality piece of luggage or even the highest quality headphones is starting that search on Amazon. They're doing a bit more research. They're actually kind of looking and shopping directly at the brand. But if you do that for luggage, you'll see things that cost anywhere between $20 and $100. And so for a product like Tumi that is like costs a heck of a lot more than that to create, it's not going to be a huge sales channel, at least today. But for American Tourister, which is still at that more mass price, albeit at still a bit more premium, we see Amazon as remarkably important as a transaction channel. I really think of Amazon in two ways, as a transaction channel and a search engine. And if you were to summarize my answer remarkably simply, if you're on the lower end of cost, it needs to be prioritized as a transaction channel. If you're on the higher end of cost, I think you need to think of it more as a search engine and as a place for people to discover your brand that otherwise might not.
I definitely do think that there is an audience out there that is really kind of craving that luxury availability on Amazon that's really not there yet.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
When you're thinking about all the different brands that you're managing internally, and you said a few things. You were talking about brick and mortar being like a gold mine. When you're thinking about digital and you're thinking about e-commerce, how impactful is that from an investment perspective for the company?
Well, I mean, it's one of the most important, albeit I still don't think, just to be a little self-critical, we're still not doing a good enough job of quantifying digital investments in offline attribution. And it's hard. Like, I want to be very clear. I don't think it's from a lack of effort or a lack of intellect, but it is a tricky thing to do because closing that loop between I was browsing your website and then I bought in one of your stores, that's really hard, right? But it can be done in certain ways with email, et cetera. But then extrapolate that to I was browsing your website and then I bought on the floor of Nordstrom. That's almost impossible because typically partners are not willing to share that information. Or I will say this, they might not be allowed to based on their own privacy policy. So I think it's an area we need to continue to invest in. I mentioned before, Google and Facebook has released some tools that make it a little bit easier, but we're constantly out there. One of my meetings this morning actually was around answering the same question. And I think that technology is continuing to catch up, but by no means it's perfect. Most people are using kind of location-based settings in phones, but I think we can also agree this is a bit of a touchy subject as far as data privacy and data usage. So we need to do our best, but at the same time, making sure anything we're doing is truly designed for value add from consumers as opposed for just data for data's sake.
Obviously, you mentioned digital obviously is a great way to connect with people post in-store purchase. What strategies do you use, say, pre-purchase to increase awareness and drive sales, whether it's in-store or even just online?
So the pre-purchase, I think you referenced the very, very top of the funnel, which is the marketing campaigns we do with someone like Lenny Kravitz or depending on the brand. We did a large campaign with American Tourister with Cristiano Ronaldo. So I don't think there's anything there which has never been done before, right? So just a little bit of self-awareness. We're still out there doing major media buys to kind of show people the brand that otherwise wouldn't. That said, there's a bit of nuance and artistry in kind of picking the right brand ambassador to do that. And we also do all the things that you talk about on a more micro influencer basis, et cetera. But to me, those kind of opportunities are sort of superficial. But then the real question is, how do you move somebody down that conversion funnel, which in a lot of cases is very reliant on sort of educational content, meaning why am I going to invest in this bag versus that bag? And what kind of traveler is this? And so we've tried to guide that shopping journey a bit more, both online and offline. And honestly, with all due respect to my digital counterparts, the best experience you can possibly get is still going into a Tumi store, right? Because the people that are in there are just so knowledgeable, and they've seen everybody, and they've had a given, like instead of just a broadcast, which the website, we get feedback, but we don't get, tens of 20 or 30 people's feedback every single day as they're coming in the store. So we're very aware of that, and we try to learn from the store and kind of move people down the funnel largely through education, as opposed to just kind of continuing just shout a message over and over from a marketing perspective. Because, like I said, it is a bit more of a considered purchase.
It just popped in my head, but like from a loyalty perspective, would be really cool if you had some type of RFID tracker in the Tumi bag that someone could actually activate.
Stay tuned on that one. You might be closer than you are farther apart.
I was just thinking, I'm like, wow, there's so many opportunities to interact with people who have your products, especially at the airport.
It's a fun thing to just noodle on in general, which is to reframe your point in a question. How do you encourage loyalty with a brand for something that's designed to last a really long time? Right. And as you can probably imagine, it's something we talk about constantly, because if we do our job right from a manufacturing perspective, this bag is going to last a heck of a lot longer than a marketing cycle. Right. So, that's one of the things we talk about constantly. And you referenced it. We really want to kind of reward people for the journeys they take. And kind of your point there is a smart one.
So what do you think is like the next thing for e-com?
Well, I have sort of a Back to the Future-esque answer on that one, which I think that especially when, if I'm going to combine your question with the question about Amazon, which is what's next for e-com, and more specifically, what's next for e-com in the world of Amazon and Alibaba? Because Amazon in the United States is not very well known, but it is a global phenomenon. Like, large marketplaces are taking over, right? And so for a brand on the direct consumer side, I think the things that we can do, and we can do better than Amazon, which, by the way, that's a hard thing, right? They invest tens of billions of dollars in this infrastructure that they have. I don't think it's realistic that we're going to beat them in logistics. I don't think it's realistic that we're going to beat them in the use of data, because they just have so much more than us. But I do think we can do two things better, and it is sort of the future of e-com for brands in general. Number one is having a good understanding of, you have to give people a reason to shop directly with you. And I referenced that before around product segmentation. And we can do that also in the second area, which I think is you're going to hear a lot from brands, is we have got to give a better after sales experience than anybody else. Because Amazon, if you buy this thing, you got 30 days to return it, but then they basically forget about you. They're not in the business of after sales service beyond the 30-day return period. And I'll go one step farther. They're really good at returns. Like, within 30 days, they have this warehouse infrastructure and they can beat us. But I think we need to give you reasons, sort of like the idea you had in loyalty. We need to give you reasons in the after sales process to continue to interact with the brand. And I think you're going to see that more and more in direct consumer e-commerce, which hopefully the biggest winner of all of that will be the consumer, right? Because this idea of service will start to extrapolate itself beyond just return policy and start to give like these little added value things throughout the course of your journey with our brand, as opposed to just being purely transactional. And I think that's where we can win.
I love it. So Charlie, you've given us so many amazing data points and a couple of quick things on the personal front. So being employed at a brand that creates products, especially for travel, what's your favorite place to travel to?
Oh, well, I travel a lot. So I'm going to say my favorite place on earth has a bit of a sentimental value as well. My wife and I got married in Sardinia, and Sardinia is one of our absolute favorite places because it sort of combines everything you would think of a Mediterranean island with like the best of Italian food and wine. And the people are just the nicest people I've ever met in my life. Like, everybody is so welcoming. And I just think that not only because I love it there and we love it there, we actually had a very special moment this summer where we got to travel there with our, at the time, about 3 or 4 month old daughter. So we, it's this place that's kind of grown in importance to us. And I think Sardinia would be my answer, and a must do if anybody's never done it.
I love it. Now I've got an additional place to go this year.
Yeah, and specifically the city Alghero, which is on the northwest coast. It's sort of like out of a fairy tale, yet it also doesn't feel touristy. You know what I mean? Which I think is a hard balance to strike with a place that clearly relies on tourism, but doesn't necessarily feel like you're going to an amusement park.
Awesome, Charlie. Well, listen, thanks so much for coming on the show. It's been great. I think everybody's going to love hearing all this amazing stuff about e-com, and especially hearing all about Tumi and Samsonite.
That's my pleasure. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you for tuning in to Marketing Mix. We hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Be sure to share and subscribe. Until next time, take care.